What's going on, guys? My name is Renegade. Today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 easiest Overwatch heroes to play. We're going to be specifically looking at heroes that require little mechanical skill to get value out of. That's not to say that these heroes don't require skill to play, but they might not require much mechanical skill. They might require game sense or knowledge over aiming or something like that. So without any further ado, let's get into the top 5 easiest Overwatch heroes to play. Coming in at number 5, we have Soldier 76. And before you ask, hold up Renegade, didn't you just say that these heroes don't require aim? Well, I did say that, but Soldier 76 is very easy to aim with. He doesn't have individual shots that he absolutely has to land. He can just spray and adjust as he's firing, so it's very easy to aim with compared to other heroes like McCree. On top of that, in competitive mode's current state, the targets he has to aim at are pretty easy to hit and large. Rhine barriers, Roadhogs, Divas, and Winstons are all pretty common, and they make for easy targets to shoot. His ultimate requires almost no skill to pull off effectively and just relies on timing and positioning. Plus, he has a self-heal, so he doesn't absolutely rely on his teammates either for health. He also has a sprint, which means he can outrun heroes that chase him down, and he has a very familiar kit if you're coming from other first-person shooters like COD or Battlefield. And as a result, Soldier 76 is at number 5. Coming in at number 4, we have Reaper. Much like Soldier 76, Reaper isn't the hardest hero in the world to aim with. He uses shotguns with a very large spread, and he always has to be at close range. His targets are almost always very large and easy to land shots on, and if he gets himself into a situation where that would get him killed, he can just Wraith form and get out of there, so he's a very forgiving hero to play too. On top of that, his ultimate requires a lot of timing and positioning, but when he does use it, it doesn't require any skill at all to pull off. As a result, Reaper is coming in at number 4. At number 3, we have Mercy. To get value out of Mercy, she doesn't really have to do much that requires on skill alone. She doesn't have to aim, and she's got a pretty effective evasive ability. Her ultimate is very difficult to pull off, but pretty much every other aspect of her kit is easy to use. The only reason she isn't higher on the list is because of the amount she relies on her teammates, as well as how much game sense she requires. To be a good Mercy, you must know when to damage boost, when to heal, and when to shoot. That may sound easy, but it gets hard when your team is overwhelmed and you really want to kill that Genji that's on 30 HP, but your Reinhardt is about to die. It's quite the difficult balancing act, but to get value out of Mercy it's pretty easy, and as a result she's at number 3. At number 2 we have Reinhardt. Reinhardt is a difficult one because he's got even more of a balancing act to do than Mercy. To get minimum value, it's probably something like 95% of the time you're sitting there with your barrier up, and 5% of the time you're swinging your hammer and fire striking. To be a good Reinhardt, it requires an incredible amount of timing and game sense, but to do what is required to get minimum value, it's a matter of standing in front of your teammates with your barrier up and calling it when it goes down. I'm not saying Reinhardt is brain dead with no skill at all, but certainly at lower skill ratings, Reinhardt has to pretty much always stand with this barrier up, and it makes his job really easy. Again, in this list we're talking about the minimum required skill to get value, so as a result, Reinhardt is at number 2. Before we get into the number 1 spot, I'd like to mention some heroes that didn't quite make the list, but they're still fairly easy to play, and again, we're talking about minimum value here, so we're talking about heroes like Diva. Diva is really, really forgiving when you play her. You know, she can block damage that might otherwise kill her, and she's got 2 lives pretty much, so she can get back into her mech, so she's quite an easy hero to play. Winston also pretty much doesn't require any aim, but the reason he's not on this list is because he's got one of the most intensive amounts of game sense and constant thinking, and you know he's actually quite a weak hero when you think about it. You know, he dies quite quickly, so you really have to know when to pounce and when to jump out again and when to bubble. And if you look at pro players like Miro, or I think that's his name, he's a Korean Winston player. He's just incredible to watch. So it's really quite difficult to get value out of Winston sometimes. So he's not on this list, but he probably would have been if it was like a top 10 or something like that. But yeah, those are some honorable mentions. We'll now get into the number 1 spot. At the number 1 spot, we have Lucio. I'm a Lucio player myself, so this was quite hard to put him at number 1 because I'm pretty much saying that I don't require any skill to play the hero I like, but Lucio is by far the most game knowledge and game sense reliant hero in the game. A good Lucio can absolutely carry his team with good ability timing and good communication. But again, it's the same with Reinhardt. As long as you stay back and use your ultimate and amp ability at the right time, then you're pretty much getting the minimum required value. That's not to say Lucio is easy though. Speed boosting properly requires an incredible amount of timing and game sense as well as team cooperation, so he's actually pretty hard to play well, but aiming with Lucio is also really difficult too. But again, the required skill is not very high at all, so he's coming in at number 1. Alright guys, that's going to be it for the video. Leave any suggestions for future Overwatch top 5 videos in the comment section down below. While you're down there, leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to see more. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.